should I? 4, 3, coming at you live. Welcome back to. I like welcome back for
back.
Yeah, the three people that listened to the first one, the three being myself, Alan, Fedora. All right, so now that we're professionals, does it make you an official YouTube person if you get 10,000 views?
I don't know what the objective you've registered on YouTube would be.
I wonder if it's because there's a couple of different metrics for success, I reckon, and one of them would be obviously monetized. That's a pretty easy one. What's that? Yep. 4,000 watch hours, 1,000 subscribers?
Yes.
Right. And how far off them are you? Just off the top of your head, because you'd have no idea.
1,500 watch hours,
yep.
But we're only 215 subscribers.
215? You were 211 last night.
What? We creep up a few each day.
Yeah. It's not bad.
It typically is a lot harder to get to the subscriber mark than the watch hours mark.
It's especially when you can't even find your name. And every time I click on hard Unduro.
I found the solve to that is if you do it with a hashtag, it comes up as first result.
All right, well,
these are the things we learn.
I'll have to do that the next time round.
There's one thing that worries me a little bit though, just on whether you're validated as a channel. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of commonly talked about at the moment that YouTube is pushing new channels to give them a chance and to see whether they have an audience.
Oh, yeah.
So I fear that we might just be
a test case,
getting a bit of a freebie, and that maybe we don't have that much substance in our content. But
that's still, I mean, that's advertising. But if people are staying and watching it, that's not, true. YouTube aren't telling people to consistently.
No, I think that's where you've got to dial down into the analytics is, you get that drop off to 30 seconds, which is where they measure. And then the flatter the line, the better, because people are staying and watching. If you've got a line that keeps declining down to effectively nothing, then you've made a shit video.
And how's yours looking at the moment?
It's pretty good, yeah. We get down to probably about 25 to 30%, but then they will stay and watch a 12 to 17-minute video, which I think is pretty good.
Surely there's some sort of metric there. Like is 30% good? Is 15% good?
Yeah, well, to be clear on the analytics, you have a YouTube average, like in a grey area, so you can see whether you're tracking in that average through the whole video duration, but they give you a measurement at 30 seconds, and I think if you're over 55% retention at 30 seconds, you're above average.
Are you above average in your virality?
It's probably middle of the road for us in terms of the metrics. It's just that it's been watched far more times, so there's a lot more. The data's a lot more accurate. It's a long video anyway, so that's like smashed our total view hours.
Oh no! I pressed the button with the microphone. With the
you were getting so good at the fade in.
Just missed. I want to do your applause.
Thanks. Belated applause
for 10,000 views on a video. Unheard of. Yeah,
it's pretty surreal.
It's pretty funny because there'll be people out there going, and.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess you got to. We can talk about all these things like creeping excellence and stuff, but it's funny. It's been. Launched 6 weeks ago, and then one video gets to 50 views and you're like, this is amazing, and now it's like, oh, it's 10,000, I wish it was 15. It's like, it's just gonna keep.
When I watched the first one and I was like, hey, you're not messing around. I was like, you've got something up on the wall. I'm like, you've got different angles. I was like, you've actually done cuts and stuff like everybody else that I've seen that starts out YouTube. It's just like there's a talking head, somebody looks at the screen and they talk crap for the 30 minutes. Pretty much what we're doing now, but without a screen.
Yeah, look, I think because we made an intention, a lot of people will tell you to just get started, take out your phone and just record whatever shit and build on it. And I totally agree with that, but somewhat background driven, we just thought we wanted to put the effort in. We wanted to have something that we would stand behind. And again, it's a total imposter thing, is that if you're going to share it with friends and family, which is how you're going to initiate anything like that, you're going to see their direct response to it. So we wanted something we could sort of feel a bit proud of to begin with. And, we filmed test episodes that we were never going to air and, critiqued ourselves and that sort of thing. So I guess that's an individual thing. Yeah, I totally agree. You've just got to make a decision and put it out there, which is exactly what we're doing here as well. But it doesn't mean that you don't think it through or you just, produce some rubbish. You've still got to have some professionalism about it.
I think it might be, like YouTube has changed as well, where it used to just be like put stuff out every day and you'll do all right. Like regardless how crappy it is like if you don't want to do it, just get it out there. I think Gary Vee used to be like more is more. Like and which is it still the same? I feel like it is, but I feel like YouTube's algorithm is actually rewarding people now for better quality. So you don't have to be as consistently out. Like I think once a week still seems to be sort of where they're at, but you could probably still do once a fortnight provided your stuff is good and YouTube would still help you out. I mean, I don't know.
I think the interval, it's important, but I think consistency. So, and that's something we've discussed is we've put out 11 videos on a weekly basis, but it's put us under a fair bit of pressure to the point where we were discussing putting out a suboptimal video next week just so we could keep consistent. So now we're discussing, well, now that we've put some stuff out there, do we go to a fortnightly regimen where we can keep producing content we're proud of and not feel like we have to pump out a filler? But they're all considerations. And at the end of the day, it's, back to that sort of, we've shared each other a lot of Mr. Beast stuff, but it's, that just make content that people stay and watch and you'll probably get rewarded for it. So
are you happy to get into why you started Hard Unduro?
Yeah.
Because obviously there's, it's a trail bike channel. The reason behind it's got nothing to do with trail bikes really, besides you like it, obviously.
Yeah, it's our medium, but it's like a lot of things, it's just the catalyst for the hidden things. So really, we refer to our dirt bikes as our mental health machines. So for me, getting out riding in the bush is one of the few places where I am completely present. And that's because, for anyone who's ridden a dirt bike or, mountain bikes in the bush and that sort of thing is you can't be thinking about anything but what's ahead of you on the trail. And, I love being in the bush anyway. It's just such a freeing place for me. I love anything with an engine. So that combination of a dirt bike, out in a beautiful landscape, just focusing on that trail, it just resets me in a way that nothing else does. So that,
and I think that resilience training with Dan Pronk, how he was talking about flow state. I feel like flow state's like, people do it. Some people do it surfing. Some people do it, doing lawn bowls, whatever else it is, like skateboarding, that whole thing. I feel like trail bike riding would be very similar where, you're consistently moving and you've always got to be looking forward to see what else it is. And then there's literally nothing else you can think about except for it. So sort of, even though it's loud, aggressive, obnoxious at times, it's as your version of surfing.
Yeah, we ride two strokes. I paddle a board out into the water. Surfing happens intermittently, and I would not identify myself as a surfer. Although if you looked at my wall in my garage, you might assume that I am, but I certainly am not a surfer. But, that's another good point is there's things like I thought I would come to love surfing a lot more than I have. I've really struggled with becoming a competent surfer. But thankfully I didn't grow up with dirt bikes, but from the age of 18, I've always had them. So that's just my comfort place. And, you mentioned flow, which is exactly correct. Like we talk about hard enduro riding, which is really just tight single trails and jumping over logs and things. And like an hour can just go in the click of a finger because you're focused on that trail. You literally and figuratively, you're flowing around that trail. And it's a really enjoyable state of flow, which for a lot of like post-operational people, ADF, first responders, it's really hard to find that sort of flow in any facets of your life again. So it's just a real escape and a reset for me. And so that means that I could just be a hobbyist dirt bike rider. So the reason for the channel, one of my good friends, Furs, who I do it with, I won't tell his story, but for my side of it, I'm at a point in my life where I'm trying to transition out of government work. And so we culturally fall into this place where we really have no public identity and we're not allowed to have social media or have any opinions. So it's essentially been a social experiment for us to put ourselves out into the world. It's been quite terrifying and quite unsettling, especially like the initial episodes. But that was really our intention, is that we needed to really build an identity for ourselves again. And we decided that was kind of the ultimate way to put it on the line is to publish something and to, show us doing something that we love. So
yeah, like I like that the story behind it actually has nothing to do with tri bikes.
Yeah.
Like it's just that, it's sort of a thing to actually And it's funny coming from being a first responder and army and stuff, where things that scare you when you do that are probably not stuff that most people would see as scary. You know, some people would be like, oh, that guy's been on a 4-day ice bender and he's got 2 knives taped to his hands. That's pretty scary. When you're like in theory it is, but the team's there. The boys are all there.
Yeah.
You've got a plan. Sure, old mate's going crazy. That's what you train for.
You've got a system to solve the problem.
Whereas like somebody's like, go and put yourself out there, film yourself talking and doing whatever. And you're like, oh, that makes me scared. Because people were asking me about challenges and stuff. I was like, oh, like get Al doing some stuff. And they're like, oh, you guys going to go bungee jumping and base jumping and all that sort of stuff. I was like, mate, I'd be mad for that. I'd love to do that. I'm like, that's not.
Please do challenge me.
Yeah, exactly. It's that's a thing where I was,
It's the content's a funny one because I actually don't mind public speaking at all. If it's, if you've been asked to speak about something, it's kind of validating. I don't mind doing it like that. But when you make some content and put it out there and say, please watch this and like this, that's quite a confronting thing to do.
I think there's a difference between creating something though and then just talking about experience. Like there's stuff, because there's stuff that you're confident in that you've done for ages, and people are like, look, you're a bit of a subject matter expert on it. Can you talk us through this? And you'd be like, yeah, if I was in that situation, I'd do this, and this. And it's no dramas. And again, there's also like emotional attachment to it. For example, you were to paint a picture or something, and then you were going to put it in a gallery, and then people just tore it apart. And you'd be like, I'm not even a painter. I enjoyed doing that, and that's me creating something on my own, and now people are criticising it. I can see how people would be a lot more taken back rather than just talking about something that I've learned and done whatever else it is that way. So I think any time you put yourself out there as a creation, you're literally putting stuff that's going on in your head out there for other people to read. That's why if they're criticising that, then they're criticising sort of you as a person. It's sort of how you take it on board, even though
it's
might
definitely
not
how you take it on board. Yeah. I've heard, Rick Rubin talks about it, and he says something like when you make art, it's finished. I can't remember how he says it, but it's like before you publish it, it's finished because you've decided it's ready for the world, and you can't not take on what other people think about it, but it's like the act of art is actually the second that you think it's kind of ready to be put out there, which is an interesting perspective. Not saying it's art; it's pretty trashy publication at the moment. But
way to be an imposter. But that thing where you can always edit something more. Like you can go, I could have made that transition a bit faster, or I should have asked this question when I did this, or whatever else. You're like, it's never going to. But the thing is, it's never going to be perfect.
No.
And I think that's where, you guys talking now about releasing a suboptimal video. When are videos optimal? Because I could watch any of your videos now, and I can guarantee you wouldn't be happy with multiple parts in multiple videos of that.
I think we tried to be conscious as well. If you just make one thing better in each video, like that's a ubiquitous thing that gets discussed all over YouTube. But it's a great strategy. Like, don't be too critical. Just if you make one thing better in each video, if you make 100 videos, you're going to be producing some pretty good quality content. So a good way to look at it.
Just wanted to get back to measures of success. I've had my own business with selling T-shirts or whatever. The first time I sold something online, I was over the moon, and then I was like, who am I going to ring and talk to about this? Because it's no one gives a shit. To me, it was a massive deal. But that's why it's funny, actually. Fedora was all about it. I was like, mate, I just sold a T-shirt. One of the other boys from our old office, I rang him as well because he also was selling T-shirts online. But I make them, whereas he had an actual company online. And he was selling them in America, so he was a little under the cover of darkness doing his sort of thing. But his phone would go off and there's like a cha-ching noise every time somebody sold it, and he made like $1.75 because he wasn't making or doing anything, but because it was his shirts, he'd get $1.75. So he'd sit there and I'd hear the cha-ching noise, and even though everyone else is doing cryptos and all sorts of other stuff and they're making a fortune out of that, anytime I heard the cha-ching, like, because we were both selling T-shirts, that meant I was over the moon for it. I'd be like high-fiving him, doing whatever, even though it cost me more fuel while we were sitting there listening, But that was amazing for me. So even like views and stuff, like I've thought about doing a channel before, thought about doing a podcast. I mean, I sort of had one briefly when somebody told me I was doing a podcast, which was amusing. But, like that, and I had no access to the analytics on that, so I've got no idea how many people looked at it and that sort of stuff. But wasn't really that podcast was sort of sprung onto us, and then we didn't have enough time, and so that wasn't really amazing for me. But it was the part that was amazing was that I could actually ask people to be on a podcast, and they're like, "Yep, no dramas." Like Paul DiMartino over at his cafe, he was happy to literally talk to a AFL bloke who's played in grand finals and stuff, and it's like that's like the fact that he's happy to sit there and talk to me about it.
It's pretty cool.
We're just sitting here in his restaurant having a chat. I was like, this is something that I would never have been able to do as a copper. Like I couldn't just go and go, "Hey mate, do you want to have a sit down and have a chat?" But you put some mics in front of people, and now it's a thing, and it's okay to. People seem to be – the microphones are funny. They make it interesting that people are happy to talk. But what I was trying to get at was with your channel now, Twisted Moto have given you a bike to do a review on. Was that like a $12,000, $13,000 bike?
Yeah, so I happened to be in there getting some parts about a week ago, and they knew we'd launched the channel, and we tried to spruik a bit of cross-promotion stuff, and they didn't really bite. Understandably, like, they didn't know we'd see it through or what we'd do. And then I mentioned that day, some of it's done really well. One video's getting up, toward 10,000 views. She said, "Oh, really? 10,000?" And then it sort of didn't go anywhere. But then the next day I got a phone call. "Oh, we've got this bike here at the moment. Why don't you guys go out and test it?" And I was like, "Oh, you could just take it for a day and go out and ride it and film it and stuff." And I thought, oh, wow. And I think what happened is, based off me saying how many views we'd had, she then went and validated that herself and was like, "Oh, crap, actually, there's something worthwhile here." So,
now when they look at it and they see it's over 10,000.
Oh, no, it's just,
you'll be like, "Show me the money now."
I need to set up this cha-ching sound effect for my views. But
I've got certain ones, but that's probably because you're not making any money.
That's not really inspiring. It's more relaxing. But yeah, it just shows the power of, we talked a little bit before about the media influence of social media, but the branding and the mutual deals is really interesting, and I hope we learn a lot more about that. But yeah, for somebody to give you a $13,000 asset with didn't sign a waiver or anything, and we went out and filmed a review between two bikes, it was pretty surreal. And that's what Furs and I set out to do. We'd love to get paid to do it one day, but we decided that value for us was earning experiences out of it, whether that's, cross-promotional stuff, getting invited to events. That's how we would like to.
Being given a bike for a review, sure, you're not getting to keep it or anything like that, but as a validation, 10,000 views for me is amazing. Like that's a pretty massive milestone. Like there's so many channels I can go on now and have a look, and they're not at 10,000. To actually being given a bike now to go and do a review, like that's pretty huge. I would have thought as a milestone. Like these are things I wasn't expecting you to have for at least 6 months.
Yeah.
Like if ever. Yeah. Realistically, because YouTube's so saturated. So it's just interesting to see the effort that you've put in. Like you're actually doing decent cuts, you're doing whatever. They're not amazing polished videos like Mr. Beast, but he's putting millions now into each video. So,
and it's not exactly what we're trying to be either, because our target audience is sort of that middle-aged rider, and
it's you.
It is us, and the name of the channel is kind of a pun on hard enduro riding, because like anything, you can watch videos of these pros doing all these, dirt bike moves and log hops and stuff, but I'll never be able to do that. There's somewhat no point in watching those channels. We want to really be a channel that shows things that can be done by people like us. I think that's our target.
That's a big thing though with consumers, because you are the everyman. The people watching YouTube are generally everyman. So it's interesting on the one hand, because like people obviously watch basketball, they'll watch LeBron and all that sort of stuff. But when they play, it's not even remotely the same. Whereas if you're like, "Hey, we're going to go and do this trail," and the guys are like, "Oh, I'm probably on their level or a bit better. If they can do this trail, I can do that trail."
Yep.
Whereas if you watch some guys like, "Oh, we're going from here to Tennant Creek," that's not a thing. Probably a little bit of a segue into another thing I was going to talk about to you was about Frontline Safari. So Frontline Safari is a mate of mine runs it basically, but he started it out as a fundraiser where he goes across the Simpson Desert in dirt bikes. I don't even know why he decided to do it, and then I had no idea he was actually running it until someone else pointed it out. They're like, "Oh, have you seen what Marksy's been doing?" But we might even have him on here. But he, it's funny because he got attacked by a rabbit.
It's freaky.
So like it's a week long, but you've got to get there first. But so it's a week long that you go on there. and they ride trail bikes from one side of the Simpson to the desert. They go through like Mount Dare and all that sort of stuff. I made T-shirts for them one year. But they have a bunch of sponsors, but most of them are all the pubs along the way. Other ones are little mechanic places as well. But they raised money. I can't remember how much money they raised last time, but they raised a bunch of money for Soldier On last time, amongst some other things. I can't remember which one they're going to go with this year. But I was just thinking I might hit him up and see if because I think the spots are all sold. It's in May. But I was just thinking if I can go, hey, look, old mate's got a channel. He's got 10,000 views on his other one at the moment, and now he's doing reviews on bikes. Like
it'd be awkward if it's the only video that ever goes any good. But
we'll
hang our career on that.
Well, I can get you at least 40 views because that's how many riders they have on this. But, like if you guys were going to go away, that way you would have – you could make a different episode for each day, meet people, do whatever. So, that you'll obviously have to talk to Furs about it, whether he can get time off, whether you can get time off, etc. But
and that's exactly what I was talking about with our value being experiences. So we've set some targets for exactly trips like that. And, some creators will get paid to go on something like that. And that would be great one day. But, even if it's, things like that where you have got to a point where you can get a discount to go and do something you would have paid retail to do, that to me is success. And you're going to go out with 40 riders and, have like one of the most intense, enjoyable weeks of your life. So, yeah, love to explore things like that.
Well, I'll get on him and we'll see if we can have an update for people next time with our 7 listeners by that stage.
Another topic that ties into both of those that I find myself talking about a lot as well, and it's kind of an underlying thing, and you're lining me up for a sound effect. We're going into a dream world.
I was hoping it was going to be something profound.
Well, so all these sort of activities, dirt biking, surfing that we go out and do with mates, I've found myself hijacking the men's shed motto. So we sort of all have like an older relative that goes to a men's shed, but their motto is that men don't talk face to face, they talk shoulder to shoulder. And when we go out riding in Anglesey, we might be out for 3 or 4 hours and wouldn't be more than half of that is actual ride time. And you find you just pulled over on a ridge line looking at the view, and I go out with mostly a lot of other emergency services guys riding. And it's just a fireside debrief, It's just another place to air out some issues, especially across service. You can compare what's happening in different circumstances. So, and same, as doing like a Simpson Desert trip. It's just a great chance to. They're the places that we debrief, especially when we need to get out of our organisation or our employer for a while. So I really like thinking of them in that frame as well.
And from what I've heard from what Mark's and some of the other boys have done, they said it's an amazing networking event. Because they have like CEOs of big companies there. Yeah. They have a bunch because everybody just gets around the fact that it's a dirt bike thing, and they also have heaps of support cars. So he told me to bring the Delica, and I was like, I'll see how it goes to get up there. But I'd love to go up and do that as a support vehicle this year. It's in May, so we'll get the dates and we'll get Marksy on and we'll have a chat to him about it further, where we can go into how he started, because we
can do a nightly podcast whilst on the trails.
Yeah, we can do that too. Twisted Moto, it was funny because I was actually looking for people to do servicing, and I was like, I found them, and then when you were like, I was like, hang on a minute, I'm pretty sure that's the people from your video, and then I saw it, and it's like, so I'm going to go in there and name drop.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Please,
see what happens. They're like, yeah, no dramas, mate. That'll be this much. And I'm like, that's twice what it said on the website.
Can you get affiliate links for servicing? I wonder if that's a thing.
Well, after you go in there, and then they're like, hey, somebody hit you up. You might see how you go. Yeah. So Frontline Safari, we'll get back to that. Hard Unduro is obviously a thing that will be continuing to ongoing. Pretty excited about that. Twisted Moto, I'll name drop you and see if we have a result for that for next week.
Wait till they see what we did with their bike.
Yeah, that's right.
We only Supermaned it once.
User-generated content is something I was also going to talk to you about.
I feel used after you mentioned that. Am I a pawn in the advertising game?
Yeah. So I'm just thinking, because going forward, it's like you have the cameras, you have the ability. I was just like wondering, at which point is there going to be the potential that other people hit you up to do reviews? Because if you do one review now And then you get seen by another dirt bike place where they're like, oh, they're doing reviews on stuff. You know, because there's the one side of it, you've got trips and stuff, which is entertaining to watch. But then on the other side of it, you've got, well, they do pretty thorough reviews and they seem to be pretty like legitimate back and forth. And it's like, I was watching another channel where this guy goes, I'm not even monetized yet and I made like $25,000 in the last 6 months.
Yeah, I watched that one when you sent it through.
Yeah,
it was interesting.
So I was like, well, that's bizarre that people are making money out of this stuff by just writing reviews and things. And I went back to when I was at the Veteran Games and the guys there, they were like, oh, tag us in any photos you've got. And I was like, yeah, all right, whatever. But it means more if somebody else takes a photo of your stuff and then tags them in it. And then that way they can put it on their story. But as a review, you don't even need to have a review. If you've got other people taking photos of them, you using their product, it becomes worthwhile to them. And then somebody else passed me on to like a couple of videos about using it generated content now, and just the fact that if you're making videos and you make it about products, it ends up being an actual business. And it's just funny to think of just two blokes who were like, "Hey mate, we're bored. Let's try and change where we're at, trying to fix our mental health by doing something," and then it just becomes a job. And it's interesting to see at which point will people start. You know, like, is it when you're monetized? Is it? I mean, realistically, has it already happened where you've been able to review something?
Yeah, well, that's definitely phase one. And that it leads to a question, that I'll pose to you, and it's an open question to our large and growing audience.
It's basically a fedora.
If in a good sense that happened and you were getting parts thrown at you and that sort of thing, we've all watched channels and it comes down to trust, but do you take all these free things and review them, and then when there's shit, you say there's shit? Do you, take the money behind the scenes and, pretend that things are good? Like, it's a pretty fine line to walk, and you probably only have to do one video where people don't believe you've been honest about it and you've lost the integrity of your channel. So it's, how do you think you navigate that?
I think you've got, you've obviously got to, and like, start with, this is a paid for video. Yep. Like whether they've actually paid you to do a review, in which case that's a heads up where people are going to be like, well, I'll take this for a grain of salt. They've literally paid for this video. Second one I'd go with would be, if you've bought it, like we bought this because we wanted to review it clear.
Yeah.
And then you're like, that's different again, because you're like, well, they bought it, so you've got every right to have a crack at it if it's crappy. If you then buy their product and then give it a glowing review and then they send you something else afterwards, because they thought, well, they're probably going to like this one as well, and then you go, they've provided us with this and we're giving it away afterwards, and then you do a review and it's crappy and you're like, look, we didn't actually really rate it that much. The only risk you really have is that company's not going to give you something back again, in which case you got to buy it next time. But that's where YouTube money comes into it. If you're making YouTube money, you may as well do straight up and down ones. I would suggest.
Yeah, but you got to. It's a lot of views to make anything.
Yeah, definitely
out of YouTube money.
But I think the way I've seen certain people do it, they're like, if I'm doing a review and it's posted, I obviously liked it. If it's unless I bought it and it was crap and I'm just venting about a product that I don't rate. But I've seen other people where they're like, if I've done a review on it and released it, it's because I liked it. If you haven't seen me review it and you think he's probably reviewed it, it's like, that's because I think it's crap. But I'm not going to badmouth another person's product, because that's another thing. It's like, if you have a bad review on it, because you might go somewhere and then just have old mates having a bad day and he's annoyed you and you're like, well, this guy's pissed me off. Now you've already got an emotional attachment to that stuff that you don't want it to be any good. So I find it hard to, unless it's a massive company that's making something and they give you a product and it's crap, I'm like, well, it's crap. May as well say it. But if it's like some real junior startup company and you're going to rag on them before they've even started, I think you'd be better off just going, you look, mate, I didn't actually rate it.
Yeah.
And I didn't
we're not going to publish it.
Yeah, I'm not going to publish it. I didn't rate it for this, and this. And then if he's like, thanks for your feedback, much appreciated, and then he fixes it and brings it back, and you're like, cool. And then you can go with, his initial one was crap.
Yeah. And they put the effort in.
And we're like, it was crap because of this. The colour was off. The paint just fell off. This happened. But I could see that had potential to be something good. We told him, he came back, now he's done this. And to be clear, he has given us this one for free. I think the more transparent you can be about it. I mean,
communication kind of solves most issues, doesn't it? If you're transparent about what's happening, and we hope we'll build that level of trust where people will believe that we've got integrity about what we're reviewing. So yeah, that's something we'll navigate. I think I joked with you the other day, I guess if it's unrelated, like if it's not a product we're installing, we're joking that we do the Wayne's World thing, like, I fell over and I was on a Pepsi Cola, it's like... just do some overtly obscene thing if it's just like I
like that you've got like FXDs on the whole time, and then you've got an FXD badge in the background, Triple O coffee's there, and it's like any danger of a sponsorship coffee.
Well, yeah, I mean that's something to talk about. We set some intentions. We've actually set the sponsors that we want to achieve. So whether we talk about it being optimism or all those sort of things, but I think it helped to set our direction. So they're mostly based around the lifestyle that we have. So I tend to wear FXD stuff all the time anyway. A lot of people that ride dirt bikes are tradies, so why not go after them? It's a compatible brand. Treacherous coffees get behind all sorts of first responder activities, and they're former teammates of ours, so that's a no-brainer. We've got Salomon on our toolbox because it's something that we wear a lot. It's got crossover, so it's like, how did you say it before? Not shoot for the stars, dreams of grandeur or something like that?
Delusions of grandeur.
Of grandeur, yeah.
They're always delusions of grandeur until you get there. And then it was just you had a goal and you made it happen.
It's, in that sense, I said to you the other day that I'm not like a default optimistic person, but in reading, I understand that if you... it's not, maybe some people see it as manifesting, but if you set your intentions towards something, you're far more likely to make those interactions and those inquiries that will lead to it. I do believe that sort of thing. So we've just, again, this whole thing's a social experiment. So I'm pushing myself toward optimism in that sense as well.
Well, it's also funny being in here, having not released a podcast yet, even though this is our 1.75th one, because I didn't work out how to press record at the start of the last one. But, and it's funny talking and then thinking, like with your video, when you made it, I guarantee you wouldn't have been thinking you're going to get 10,000 views.
No, and that's something that, you have to face as well, is that's that paradox as well, whether do you just record something and put it out there? Well, if you keep doing it and you're consistent, people are going to go back and watch that first video or that first podcast. So I'm a little torn to that sort of technique of just get something out there, but I think just set some professional standards for yourselves, and which we've discussed here and we're doing, but we're being honest about forgetting to press record and the balances on our voice and levels. We're actively learning, overtly learning as we do this as well.
And even as things happen, like obviously I had the volume down when I tried to do a sound effect and it was terrible. Like if you're clicking a pen in the background, or every time we pick something up off the table and put it down, or like you make a point with your hand, like I can see the levels go up every time we put a hand on the table and stuff like that. Like it's stuff like that will probably be annoying as a listener, and no doubt Fedora will pick it up.
He'll hate it. Yeah,
whether he can fix it or not is another question, because it comes through different microphones. But each time we do this, like even with like how close your mouth is to the microphone, like you sort of start drifting back, and then you can hear it go funny. Like it's stuff like that. We'll obviously get more normal about talking on microphones and stuff as we go along. But I like the idea of, if anything, this being almost like a documentary for us at the moment. Like I would love in 3 years' time where this is a job, or like one of us gets a job on a radio or whatever, where they're like, well, you guys actually spoke well on the radio, we're going to get you to do this. Or there's so many times where I've done something which led to something else, like where like leaving the police now has been obviously chopping and changing and speaking to different people, and then being the politician thing, met so many people. I've been part of a parliamentary inquiry now. Like I was October last year, literally Heston and I were there talking about the preferencing thing, and I was on Peter Credlin, I was on this and that, and then it just disappears because people aren't interested. And then when something does come up, like I've had my phone ring before where Sky News is just ringing me. I was like, why are they ringing me? And it's Ben Robert Smith. comes up, you know, and they're like, now they obviously just want a veteran, and I'm.
Will you denounce him live?
Yeah, you know, like, or back him depending on who it is that's trying to ring you. But it's interesting that people, you feel like people forget who you are, but when you fit a niche that they're keen on, I'm probably one of the only veterans they have on their, you know, in their phone book. So I dare say they ring Heston first, but then otherwise, but he might say no, and then they'll be like, well, maybe Perso's going to be outspoken and talk about it. And I'm still in a position where going from army and police where you just didn't exist, and the fact that I had nothing on the internet, and that made me so happy. Like when I went to Google myself before the politics, I'm like, there's going to be some dumb shit on there. I Googled myself before that, it didn't exist. And it was like, I'm like, at 40 years old, I don't exist on the internet. I'm like, I am so excited right now. And now it's, you know, that whole thing's crap now.
Yeah, and if you're one of 3 people listening to this episode and you've been in a service industry, it's not normal. Like, yes, you don't want to be extremely like represented on the internet, but we've got to be careful. We get to like a midlife retirement age, or we want to move on and do something else. We don't exist in the way that normal people do, and that's something I think we're going to go on to talk about a bit. Is, you know, looking for jobs post-government and things like that. We're not normal in that sense. We don't have those sort of core skills to go out and promote ourselves or talk about ourselves, and we don't have any online history. So it's, you know, keep that in mind, that those things are normal. We've just been conditioned to shy away from them.
It's interesting. Like, I mean, we'll talk more about it going forwards, I dare say, depending on how your situation unfolds, for example. So we talked last podcast, you want me to try and get on the Zero Limits podcast, so I'll get around that. Yeah, so there's that, but there's also so Maladjusted Monkeys is one of the big reasons why I got into this, because I love their podcast. It was literally 2 blokes who got out of the army. One bloke was like, oh, fuck, I need to get back in because things don't make sense outside, and the other one went to police, and I was like, these are my people, and to the fact where he's now actually doing acting and stuff, which is hilarious. So it's like he was talking about, I've been doing some extras work and stuff. And I was like, is this bloke having a laugh? Like, he's literally living my life. This is ridiculous. But he's just a better looking version though.
Twins separated at birth.
He's a better looking lad. But but he's actually through mates with Sean Barry, who was running extra specialists at the time. I still think he does that, but it was just getting too much work for him. So now he's actually producing movies and stuff. He's actually got one out at the moment on Amazon Prime called Kane. Yeah, $6.99 if you can be bothered, get around it. He shot the whole thing in. And again, if you haven't been in the filming stuff, it doesn't mean as much to you. So it's similar to me knowing a little bit, like doing research on YouTube, seeing you have 10,000. That's amazing to me. To somebody else, it's no big deal. Whereas he's got a video that they made and they shot it in 15 days, which is unheard of because most movies that they do it in like 3 to 6 months. So he's done it in a 2-week period. He's got a bunch of people who are in like Australian stuff, like Tammin Surzok. She's in it. She was in Home and Away.
I had a poster of her on my wall. Is there any way that we can meet her?
That'll be another. That's another challenge. We'll get Tammin on, and then but he's on there. He's got an awesome cast. It goes for I think 73 minutes. So they just wouldn't have had more time to do. If they wanted to make a 2-hour thing, would have had to have been a much bigger. But what they've achieved in a 15-day period of filming, to me, is amazing. Having been on La Brea and seen like other movies shot and how long it takes and how many takes they do and whatever else it is.
Speaking parts, no less.
No, I haven't had a speaking part.
Yeah, haven't you?
No.
Oh,
I had a non-speaking bit part. That was my highlight so far.
You deserved a speaking part.
I did. I really did. And at one point they told me I had a line and then just disappeared.
That would have been it. Take it away.
We wouldn't even be talking if I'd made it that way.
You would have been eating in different catering halls. And
so like there's definitely plenty of people that we know between us that I think we can get involved. Like I know Sean is a very busy man, but he's hilarious and he's good to have on. And he also did the politician thing and was just like, this is shady, and got out real quick. Like I was speaking to him beforehand about it and he was like, mate, he's like, look, I get it. You've got to learn the hard way. He's like, and he goes, and look, if you make it, amazing, all for it. He's like, but it's not for me. He's like, it's too much, it's too hard, too much work needs to be done, etc. And I was like, yeah, right. And then I got in there, I was rang him after it was over, and he's like, so how do you reckon you went?
Told you so.
Yeah. He's like, look, hats off to you for having a crack, mate. Now what are we doing? But I bring him up because Tommy Archer, who's from Maladjusted Monkeys, is actually in that movie. And I was like, so I was text messaging him and I was like, oh, Pete O'Hellen's in there. Pete's got like 60,000 followers on Instagram, whatever it is, which to me, massive deal. To other people, probably not as big a deal.
Yeah.
Oh, how's the background noise? Oh, well, this will be interesting in a minute.
Accentuated.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about Kane and that stuff, it highlights something else that we'll have to keep in mind is you got to judge things by the goals you've set for yourselves, you know, like that movie that can't, you know, judge itself by the standard of other Netflix movies, and we've got to judge ourselves by the parameters that we've set and, you know, just try and keep that in mind.
But see, for me, him having something that's now like played on Amazon Prime that anybody can jump on that's got Prime, can watch it, is a massive thing for me. But again, other people not so much. But Fedora was a bit of, realistically, he was my hype man through the whole thing, like through the politicians thing. And he was always in the background, just like, mate, that's amazing. How many reels have you got? This and that's happening. He's like, I think you might actually be able to do it and all this sort of stuff. Like, he was feeding into me going, yeah, I reckon I'm going to get there. Like, I'm actually going to be a politician. This is bizarre. But, you know, I learnt so much, and that's one thing. I don't want to get into politics again, so I'm going to move on because I spiral about it. But
and the other message that hopefully we will continue to convey is that you just got to have a crack at some things. Like if you've been thinking about something for ages, whether it's, you know, a political stance, it's YouTube, it's something like that, you get to a point where you just have to have a crack or you're never going to do anything. And again, I'll credit our mates from 3 Zeros is I'd been fluffing around with this YouTube thing and, you know, talking to Furs about it for a while. And they said to me, you know, with their coffee, they got to a point where everything had been done except launching it. And he's like, you just have to pick the day and say, it's just going to happen. Otherwise, you're never going to do it. So, you know, and this whole project as well, this challenges thing lends itself to making ourselves accountable to each other. And, you know, for anyone that's out there that's got teammates and stuff struggling, that I think is one of the most useful things that you can do is make them accountable to you to come and do a simple activity or go and play sport because they might not do it for themselves. And, you know, same with these challenges is I know you're going to challenge me to do things that I would not do for myself. And I hope that at least 1 out of 10 of them is a benefit to me. Doesn't put me back in my shell.
You know what would be amazing is if this grew into something where we almost became hosts, where other mates challenged their mates to do something, because that would be hilarious to me. As if like they were like, hey, mate of mine has been in his shell for ages. I need you to come and basically publicly shame him into doing something.
We'll make them pitch us on their challenge. I like that. I mean, we've talked about it potentially evolving into some events as well and things like that. I think it's a great use case if we can leverage it to drag other people to make their mates accountable for them.
Oh, like events like so there's like the Coastal 100 down there. Like Fitzy keeps getting into me about it, going, "Oh, you can do it as a relay. You can have 4 people do it." And I'm like, "Right, so you're going to run 95k and I'll run 5?" And he's like, "Yes," because he does endurance events, so that's not a big deal. He's run the Mont Blanc and done.
But it's 5k more than you would run if he doesn't make you go and do it.
Yeah. You know, but the thing is, if we had events like that, and you know, one of our 7 followers that we don't even have yet,
we'll probably lose 3 by then.
Yeah. So if 2 of our 3 followers wanted to turn up and do it, and then come with us, that'd be amazing. Like, if somebody was like, "Oh, mate, I've been listening to your podcast. I've heard you guys doing some stuff," and I was like, "You know what? I am going to go do the Melbourne Marathon, or I am going to come and do this ice bucket challenge or whatever else it is that we're going to go do." You know, and then if we can give platforms to some people that then helps them, I don't know. I mean, if we end up raising money for, you know, a family that needs it or whatever else it is, like that'd be amazing if we had a platform that we could actually help other people out with. But even just, I would love to have people then go, "I dare you to go do this," or whatever else it is, and not something like go and try heroin. So
we're just going to follow a bunch of like lads, ex-AJs around, follow them doing dumb shit challenges.
Yeah, but I don't want to get into jackass, but
just get your mates out doing something.
Yeah.
Like I also have bought into this philosophy I heard on another podcast where the guy talked about you get to a certain age and you don't have a lot of social interactions anymore. People are married, they've got careers. He said so he decided he took charge as the organiser. So if you organise something and you tell your mates it's happening, a decent amount of them will turn up. But if you're waiting on everyone else to organise something, you'd never catch up. You never have that golf weekend. You never do this shit. So it's another good way to think about it. We'll try and make ourselves the organisers, but you can do that for yourselves as well. Like if you've got a few mates.
We change from the imposters to the organisers?
Yeah. What was the other one?
And then we're going to go to disruptors.
Disruptors, yeah. We'll move through a phase of each one. But yeah, just drag your mates out. We've all got mates who are, off work or not leaving the house to do much stuff, and drag them out.
You ready for a bit of outro music? Or
let's roll.
Do you want to say something profound as we do it, or?
I do want to say one more thing.
Oh shit!
All right. From a former Choc to a returned serviceman.
Oh,
happy Australia Day tomorrow, mate.
Oh, happy Australia Day.
We're allowed to still
mate.
say that.
Hang on. Oh no, that's wrong. I'm going to have to get better than that. That's terrible.
We're going to need the label maker.
Radio.
Get around it, mate. See you next time.
Happy Australia Day.